This is Sandra Swan with Sandra Swan Star Power, and we spotlight people who are in the culture, sharing the light of Christ in their careers and in their personal lives. And that comes from a scripture in Philippians, which says, I'm going to read it to you. For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose, and in everything without grumbling or arguing, that you might become blameless and pure, children of God without fault in a warped and crooked generation. And the key verse, this is Philippians 2:14, so that you will shine among them like stars in the sky as you hold firmly to the word of life. And Shira, you have certainly done that with your career, with your life. You've shared your testimony with the High Tech Prayer Breakfast, and I've recommended you to people that I know. So I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our audience, share a little bit about your background, and professionally and then spiritually about your faith journey.
That's my pleasure and
Welcome to
delight.
the show.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you. It's
welcome.
wonderful to share with a believing audience who really aligns with my heart. And so I'll just start by actually sharing the name and the tagline of my company because I think that's very illustrative of where my kingdom lens is. So the name of my company is Purposeful Hire. My tagline is for every hire, there is a higher purpose. And that is my heart. And for those who have ears to hear, they know whose higher purpose it is. Right.
Yeah.
And I live that out, or I try to live that out in every aspect of my business. I like to say that I have multiple lanes to my highway. I have a recruiting lane. I recruit for associations. I have a big career coaching lane, helping people discover their brand, write the resume. I have LinkedIn profiles, networking strategies, all of those things. I have an executive coaching lane, a small business coaching lane. I even do workforce planning. I do all these things in the workforce and to really help employers and employees find their higher purpose together.
Mm.
Together. I like to say that I sit on both sides of the hiring aisle. I
Hmm.
preach equally to job seekers and to HR people. In fact, and I say preaching not even so jokingly. I really do. It's interesting when it comes to the human resources community, and I've been in that world for 30 years now.
Wow.
I feel like I have the right to say the following, and that is that I have a real strong passion to help HR professionals and employers in general to have a new lens on their staff, even down to the nomenclature. In human resources, we'll even just take the word resources. What's a resource? It's something that you use, and then when you're done with it, you throw it out.
Mm.
We like to say, oh, people are our greatest assets. Asset is property.
Right.
Recruiters have the new term is talent acquisition. You get where I'm going with this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, or human capital, all these different phrases. We don't even think about it. Like, oh, yeah, it's just a business. Think about it. I think
Yeah.
about it a lot. And I have stood on stages and preached to groups of human resources professionals in the Society for Human Resource Management and say, we should not be saying, and it's more than just the nomenclature, right? It's the hard attitude. We need to
Mm.
respect and honor people, not just for what they're capable of doing, but
Hmm.
for their motivators, or I would say their God-given gifts, right?
Yeah.
How they are wired and designed to serve the world with purpose, not just with capability. It's not
Yeah.
just about productivity, right? It's about personal passion and calling. And
Right.
so in my work, I'm always trying to figure that out. Whether I'm recruiting, when I'm a recruiter, I'm not just asking candidates, what are you capable of doing? Have you been there, done that? I'm asking, what do you want to do? And I have an exercise that I call passiontivity, and it
Mm.
helps understand their skills and motivators. And I'm looking for natural alignment. And if there is, great. If there's not, we've had a good conversation and I gently, right, close the call
Yeah.
so that they feel respected in the process. And
It's
the
a
same
very
thing with my
personal
coaching.
touch, right? I'm not an asset. I'm not
No, I'm a
a
person
capital
and I have a
investment for a
calling.
company.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that there's alignment. And certainly in my career coaching work, that's the main thing that I'm looking at is right, what are you called to do? And
Hmm.
your branding and what's your purpose, right? And how can we utilize your skills in a meaningful way. So yeah, so that's kind of the bit of the scope of what I'm up to.
Well, I like that. And you bring the spiritual aspect as well into your
Mhm.
coaching.
Yeah.
You've got a wonderful testimony. I've heard it before. So maybe you could just give us a little tidbit about your faith background.
Oh, for sure, for
how
sure.
that's
So,
impacted what you're doing.
yeah. So, okay. So we're going to go a whole different direction here. Go a little personal. So I was raised Jewish. I should say very, very Jewish, kind of like the Apostle Paul kind of Jewish.
Okay.
I jokingly call myself Paula sometimes. My father's clergy. I was raised in a very religiously observant home, loved every minute of it. That's why I liken myself to Paul. I was not rebellious at all. I was in it to win it, right? I was very God oriented in my
Yeah.
Judaism. Went to Jewish day schools. I speak Hebrew. I was a Zionist. I mean, all the things. And anyway, so when I came to faith in Christ, which was when I was 24, a little before I was 24, God came to me, spoke to me directly, and told me that He had a son, and that there was a whole testimony that led up to that, that we don't have time for right now, but just to say that God used a personal circumstance in my life
Well,
to get my
I'd like to
attention.
invite our audience to actually call you and ask for that
I'm
story because they
delighted
might
to
want to
hear this.
know.
I'm delighted to share the story. It actually had there was a bit of there was a romantic angle. It was a guy that I was dating. He was Catholic and all these things. And anyway, but he used a personal story in my life, a personal time to catch my attention.
Mm.
And there was this moment, February 27th of 94, that he caught my attention, and I heard his voice, and he told me he had a son. And there was a series of events that happened after that to confirm that, leading up to me taking communion a couple months later at Metropolitan Baptist Church in downtown DC that a colleague of mine brought me to. And that was my actual salvation moment. From that time forward, it actually was, if you remember, there were revivals in the 94, 95 time period.
Yeah.
Pensacola and Toronto. I was caught right up into those revivals and landed
Mm.
right there in the spirit-filled world. So that I cut my teeth immediately, right into the deep end of the ocean, and really, thankfully was exposed to the gifts of the spirit, prophecy, healing, and all of this. And so
Mm.
I was really very much
So
immersed in
God
that
can
world
use those
to this
gifts
point.
in your career counseling,
Well,
doesn't
yes. And so the prophecy, yeah. So I have a prophetic lens, and I find that God is always giving me discernment
it?
with
Mm.
people, and speaking me, whether I won't necessarily say this is I won't say thus saith, right? But I can sense in my spirit often if this is something that the person really needs to hear,
Yeah.
and be able to use discernment, around that. And I want that. I only want to be Holy Spirit led in
Hmm.
everything that I do. And now for
And
those
how
who have,
often is it really that you trust someone to be honest with you? You know, oftentimes you don't find integrity and honesty in your relationship. So you're in a perfect position as a counselor to offer that kind of
for sure,
compassionate discernment.
for sure. And when people come to me, they're in a place of need, right?
Yes.
They're in a place of need of job, often job transition. Sometimes it's just executive coaching. So it's not job transition. It's just they need support in their role. But
Yeah.
either way, they're coming because they're at a point of need. And so my job is to listen to the Lord, and trust that in the moment I'm going to have the words of discernment that I'm going to need to encourage the person. Now,
Mm.
sometimes if the person acknowledges that they're also a believer, I can have a more overt conversation and sometimes pray with them
Oh,
or
wow.
exhort them,
Okay.
a little more, sister to sister, sister to brother, kind of thing. In fact, the way that a lot of people will know that I'm a believer, other than hopefully they feel the spirit around me, is that I open my calls, in fact, to everybody in my life, but including in my coaching calls, with people say, "How are you?" I say, "I'm blessed." And then I close the call with "Have a blessed day" or "God bless you." So
Mm.
people know that who I am just because of the way I open and close my talks. And so for those who feel comfortable, they will then respond likewise and be
Yes.
able to, and then we'll be able to go there in a deeper way. Yeah.
Right, right. Well, you shared with me earlier a really wonderful story, and I was wondering if you wanted to share that with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is a really, really powerful story. So in my career coaching work, I not only have a B2C, excuse me, a B2C relationship with individuals,
Hmm.
will invest, but sometimes a B2B one, where I do something called outplacement, where an employer, if they unfortunately have to downsize staff, they will hire me to coach that staff. Okay. Um, Usually it's like one or two people. Well, this one time a few years ago, there was a nonprofit that came to me, found me, and I had to outplace 17 of their staff because the
Oh,
whole nonprofit was closing.
heartbreaking.
Well, it was. And but what made it particularly interesting for me is that this was an LGBT nonprofit. And I really feel like the Lord gave them to me as an assignment. I mean, I've had
Hmm.
a lot of people from that community in my coaching world over the years, but this was like en masse, right? And not only that, this is a group where all of the staff pretty much were of that persuasion because the mission of the nonprofit was to push forward a particular bill into Congress. Like literally that was their existence was to push this forth.
Hmm.
And they were closing and they gave me all their people. And so, as per usual, I open and close my calls with blessings, right? So everybody knew who I was,
Hmm.
and it was able I was able to lean into that in a particular situation. So there was this gentleman who I kind of knew that he in particular was going to have a challenging time landing a job just because of his particular skill set. So I gave him extra little TLC. I had every Tuesday at 5, we would meet for 30 minutes just to have an encouragement call. And there was this one particular time, I forget what it was that I asked him, but he said something to the effect of, I need to ask my father. And he pointed up and I just grabbed onto it. And I said, wait a second, maybe he means God. I said, so and so, I said, do you mind if I pray with you? He goes, yeah, it's fine.
Oh, wow.
So I did a Holy Spirit all out anointed prayer with this man. I mean,
Oh, that's beautiful.
full blown.
Wow.
And he received it. And I was so blessed to be able to
Hmm.
speak into his life, especially when oftentimes this particular community doesn't always feel the love from believers, right?
Yep.
Which is very sad. And we need
Yes.
to do a much better job collectively of,
Hmm.
of ministering, right? And speaking life and be salt and light and all of this to all people, right? But
Yeah.
particularly those I feel who may feel extra, judged by us. And that's
Hmm.
not what Jesus wants, right? He wants us to have a heart of compassion. So
Yeah.
I just really, use that as an example of kingdom advancement because
Yeah.
that's my heart is to advance the kingdom through my work. My work is it's vocation, it's avocation, it's all of it for me. And it's really such a blessing to be able to pour life into people. And I pray for my clients. There's so many people I've had. There's a
Wow.
gentleman
That's
right now I've been coaching, and he's on the autism spectrum, and he's having a particularly challenging time.
mm,
So he's in my daily prayers. His name is Jeff, and I pray. So like, there's just these people touch my heart, and I really feel like it's an honor to lift them up to the Lord.
well, that's beautiful and so unusual to find someone who offers the kind of professional services that you do and then to offer encouragement spiritually along the way because when you can put them in touch with their Heavenly Father, you've got another advocate because Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father, ever
That's right.
interceding
That's exactly right.
for
And
all
who
of
knows?
us.
I could be the only person who's in their life who's a believer, right? I
Hmm.
might be the only person who's planting those seeds, and I know that. And
Yeah.
I've had church with my clients many times, whether they know it or not, but sometimes pretty over. Yeah.
Well, I love it. I think that it's beautiful. And I'm sure many of them have referred people to you, because of
Yeah.
that and that level of comfort and feeling
Yeah.
safe that
Yeah, for
that
sure.
you're going to encourage them along the way and not tell them, well, you don't have this skill set, you don't have that skill set. I don't
No,
know what I
it's
can do for you, honey. Goodbye.
right. What can we do is kind
Right.
of what I look at.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Well, you've got a master's in public relations and you've had a great career in some other areas and you landed as a um, company right here in the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. area.
Yeah.
And you've been very well connected through the high tech industry. And hopefully we can spread the word through the audience here that there's someone that can be on their side when they're running into that rough road
Yeah.
trying to lift themselves back up after a very traumatic job transition.
Yeah.
Um, so I was wondering if you've done, when you do speaking engagements, do you address certain associations in the
I
area,
do, yeah, and
churches?
it's interesting. The high tech. So I'm actually not really plugged into the high tech community. That was just on my faith journey. I got plugged in there, but really
Uh-huh.
associations are my people.
Okay.
I've been working with associations for 30 years now. I'm very, very involved in that community. So any of your listeners that are in my tribe, as it were,
Yeah.
Feel free to connect. And I do certainly work outside that sector too, particularly for job seekers. I can coach anybody at any profession, any sector. Just happen to have extra love around the association world because I've been working with them for a long time, not just with coaching. I've been an association recruiter for these three
Hmm.
companies.
Okay.
I place everybody from CEOs to executive assistants and everybody in between, trade associations, professional societies, all the everybody. And they're kind of my heart. In fact, I even do strategic planning now for associations because I
Oh,
understand
wow.
their
So
business.
those are mostly or primarily nonprofits then,
They
right?
are, yes.
Okay.
So one would say that not most all associations are nonprofits, but not all nonprofits are associations.
Okay.
Yeah, there are a lot of
Yeah.
charitable groups. I can work with them, but really associations are they're in a particular sector.
Well, there are a lot of them in this DC metro
There
area.
are,
That's
there
for
are. You can
sure.
kind of trip over them all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're doing a lot of important work. Well, also I wanted to check with you. I know that you've ministered and spoken at career networking events.
Yes, I have. Yes, I do. I do a lot of speaking in the job seeker community. Career confidence, career network ministry, Jewish Council on the Aging, 40 plus. I have my own community service group called Higher Moment Mastermind. We meet every other Friday. Years ago, I started another community service group called BoomerWorks for 50 plus professionals to re-career into self-employment,
Mm.
boomerworks.org. We used to have monthly educational meetings, and to this day, all of them are on our website. Just go to the training center tab, scroll down, and we got a bunch of videos for people who want to become self-employed, who want to go from W-2 to self-employment. So my speaking career in the job seeker world is pretty extensive. I think for about like the last 15, 16 years. On
Hmm.
a regular basis, I'm speaking. And in fact, the JCA has a group called the Career Gateway. For those who are interested, it's only $75, and they offer it for basically a five full days over the course of a week and a half for 50 plus job seekers. And I'm their regular LinkedIn trainer on their Monday. Like, so for
Wow.
10, 15 years now, I've been, that person. So I'm really, really ensconced in the job seeker community, trying to keep up with the trends. I'm now using AI, all the things. And it's
You
so
do or you don't use
I
AI?
I do
Oh.
actually. I do. I've been leaning into it more with resume work and helping people to align their resumes with job announcements. Just it's a tool that can be used when used wisely, right? It can be very helpful, and so
Okay.
I've been doing that, and but more importantly, just kind of trying to keep up with the trends of
Hmm.
sharing with people how the online job boards just don't work anymore. Only 3% of online applications result in a hire. 3%.
Wow. So you
Right.
would recommend most people go through a hiring coach rather than some
Yeah. Well,
online job
okay.
search.
So, all right, we can go here if you want.
Let's go there. Let's go there.
Yeah, we got to do a little bitty training. So putting aside any coaching or recruiters, really how people are getting their jobs these days is networking.
Mm.
Now, it's been that way for a long time. They say that about 80% of jobs are gotten through personal networking, but particularly now, there are all kinds of reasons why the job boards are crowded. I mean, overcrowded.
Mm.
Not the least of which is that, so easy to apply, right?
Mhm.
So people will flood the job boards for jobs that have nothing to do with their background and where they're not qualified. There are even bots now that will send fake resumes. There are companies that will literally spray your resume to all these different jobs. And so it's crowded, clogged. On top
Mm.
of which we had all the downsizing of the federal government and the tech downsizings and the AI downsize, all these things. So poor job seekers, but not just poor job seekers, poor recruiters. The
Yeah.
recruiters are getting onslaughted to the point where they might have 200 resumes in the first 24 hours of the posting.
Wow.
And sometimes within 2 or 3 days, they've taken the posting down because they're overwhelmed.
Mm.
That's how clogged it is. And so they're no wonder job seekers are finding their resume in the black hole. And so one of the
Hmm.
things I do as a coach is help people leverage their network, their trusted network, the
Hmm.
network of their network, and teach
Yeah.
them. I have these concepts. I call it the family tree of networking: your twins, siblings, first cousins, and second cousins, people you're close to, all these different things, right? People who can champion your candidacy to get
Yes.
you noticed in a very crowded market. And so networking is huge, 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 huge. It's really, really, really about who you know, particularly people who you've done work with in the past. Those can be your greatest champions to help you land in the future. Many people get their jobs through former colleagues, people who trust their work.
Mm,
Of course, why you also need to we should keep our good relationships anyway, because that's the right thing to do. But also
right. Yeah.
know that when you have a good relationship, oftentimes they can be your biggest champion for your next job search.
So if there are people out there who they're scared to death to meet new people, they've been in a job forever,
Yeah.
and everyone in their company or nonprofit is leaving. And so where would they begin to try to meet people in person that could refer them and be good
Sure.
a networking place that's not necessarily online
Sure.
if they're not that comfortable going in person, how would
Yeah.
you coach them to
So
reach out in that
yeah,
way?
the most comfortable way to start is with the people who know you, love you, and trust you. That's the first place I would go. I would go with your current colleagues, your most recent colleagues, colleagues you've had in the past who know your name, where you
Mm,
have a good reputation with them.
mhm,
Not only that, the second thing would be to find the people who not only are close to you relationally or have been, but, and this is going to sound funny, but it really makes a lot of sense when you think about it, but people who do what you do. I
mm,
call them your professional twins. I'll tell you why.
okay.
Because let's pretend you're a project manager. Okay, let's pick a
Hmm.
title. Okay. If you reach out to other project managers, especially the ones you've had a good relationship with, they are likely to hear about opportunities that are not right
Mm,
for them, but could be right for you. And I'll give you a perfect example. Right
okay.
now, on my desk, this hot second, I'm doing a vice president of finance search for a trade association. And as a recruiter, I didn't use the job boards. I usually don't. I just went out to my own LinkedIn network and I started, fishing for people. And what I did was I looked for VPs of finance
Mm,
because of the birds of a feather. I
hmm.
assume, which
Right.
is not incorrect, that people are going to hang out with colleagues, right? Well,
Yeah.
sure enough, I reached out to a bunch of people, and this one guy, Jeff, writes me back, and essentially his message back to me was, "Well, the job's not right for me, but I'm referring it to my friend Chris." Chris reaches out to me. Now, here's the thing, Sandra. Because I was not doing an online job board, I didn't have 500 resumes in my inbox. I was able to discreetly go one by one and really look at a resume. So
Hmm.
Chris sent his resume to me, and I looked at it, and it was a perfectly fine resume, but he had the skills, but his sector wasn't exactly like, it wasn't from an association, it wasn't from his sec. It was like a charitable group. It just wasn't exactly. But I said, you know what? Hey, why not? I'll give him a call. We'll do the interview. Sandra, he is now my top candidate.
Wow.
And he got this interview with me, and got an opportunity to sit in front of me so that I could vet him that way
Yeah.
because of a colleague who does what he does,
Mm.
who's a professional twin.
Boy, that's great advice. Yeah.
And the next thing is, I'll just share on top of that, it's not just about the networking, but to understand what we call the hidden job market. 80% of jobs are hidden from the market.
Hmm.
This guy, Jeff, heard about the hidden job market from me, but it was only because Chris only heard the opportunity because he shared his search with his friend Jeff, who does what he does, which
Okay.
exposed him to the hidden job market.
All
Right.
right.
So I really, really want to encourage you. You never know who's going to randomly hear about that opportunity. Again, that could
Hmm.
be not be right for them, but could be right for you. Go after the people who do what you do. They're not competitors, they're competitive mates.
Well, I know some people I'm going to send your way because some of them have had health challenges, and so they had to step back,
Yeah.
and now they need to get back into the job market, and
Yeah.
so that could be a bit of a challenge for sure.
Yeah,
But
for sure. Not only
yeah.
that, there are people who are retired or people who've just been in long-term transition. There are a lot of people who've been out of work for different reasons, but
Hmm.
really need encouragement. I'll just leave you with one last story. So
Okay.
we have many federal friends who've been, in transition, and I was referred somebody named Carol, and she was an SES actually with an agency, and she took the DRP, the Deferred Retirement Program, she assumed that her network would find her.
Mm.
So she was out of work for the last, what, 8 months, something like that.
Wow.
And she came to me and and I said, Carol, I said, it's not how it works. I said, you got to go fish. You got to go find people. Well, because of the kind of work the sector she was in particular agency, I happen to know trade associations that are in that world. I started working with her and I've actually started to make some strategic introductions for her. And now she looks like she might get a consulting gig through one of
Right.
my clients. And even on her own, now that she's out there, she's doing her own fishing. And she has another colleague she might actually have two consulting engagements
Oh,
now
that's
that we've actually
wonderful.
teed things up and really got her going and comfortable with you reaching out and
Yeah.
building those
That's
relationships.
probably the hardest part,
Reconnect.
but
Yeah.
with your counseling and encouragement and prayer, God
Yeah.
God always does orchestrate divine connections, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. He's the master orchestrator,
I love
master
it.
network, I like to say.
Wow. Well, this has been very enlightening too, and I definitely will send some more people your way. I just a couple of
Happy to
people
help.
popped into my head while you were
Happy
talking.
to help.
But, it's true in this DC metro area, the federal government displacement of
Yeah.
people has
Yeah.
been overwhelming.
Yeah.
So, and many of them, have been at their jobs for years and years and
I
years
know. And don't
and
know
don't
what
know
to
how
do.
to network. They don't
Yeah.
know how
And,
to,
and they
that's,
weren't, and frankly, they were oftentimes discouraged from networking,
yes.
which is tough. And so now they need some encouragement of how to do that.
That's right. Well, give us your website and how people can get in contact with you.
So my website is purposefulhire.com. That's the word purposeful with one L, Hire, purposefulhire.com. And my email is Shira, Shira, at purposefulhire.com.
And you're on LinkedIn as
And I'm
well.
absolutely on LinkedIn, Shira Lotzar, Lotzar. People are welcome to link in with me and happy to have a chat. And in fact, I offer free 30-minute complimentary conversations. So
No,
if you just want a 30-minute chat, um, no obligation, happy to give a little informal advice.
love it. That's great. And then as far as speaking engagements, if, companies want to invite you, what would you recommend? If
Yeah,
they
so
wanted you to come speak, say at their church or something, would you bring in that spiritual aspect to the people
100%.
that
Yeah,
maybe are looking for jobs, but their circle is really their church?
for sure. If the person wants if they'd like me to come in and speak to their church, one of the signature talk I can give is on this exercise that I have called passiontivity. As I mentioned earlier, it looks at skills and motivators, and we can really take it to another level and really say, okay, so where has the Lord anointed you as a job
Mm,
seeker, right, to serve? So I can come in and do a presentation with a group of parishioners and, really help each person, whether they're in job transition now or not, even if they're
hmm.
gainfully employed and still looking, but just as almost it's almost like a spiritual gifts exercise, not the soft skills, not the helper, administrator,
Right.
prophet, right? But more of the functional skills of how you best serve in your work.
Yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
where is the Lord have gifted you in service? Are you in marketing, customer service, project man, whatever it is? Let's open it up. And especially if the kind of work you've been doing recently has not been particularly engaging and there's skills you want to call forth and maybe reposition a little bit,
Mm.
I can help you figure that out too.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, that's very encouraging. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been really, really educational, and I'm going to be referring people to you, and I hope our audience will reach out to Shira, and she will make you feel very comfortable in the whole process. And if you're discouraged, she'll pray with you and
There you go.
give you a little
Absolutely.
encouragement that way too.
100%. In fact, my higher moment mastermind calls that I do every other Friday, that's how we end. After I close the call, I invite anyone who wants to stay on the call for a short prayer call. And I
Oh,
do that every other week.
oh, I
Mhm.
like that mastermind call. Well, all
Mhm.
that information's on your website, right?
Yes. In fact, on my website, if you just look on the top masthead and you see higher moment mastermind, click there and there's a meetup link.
Okay, great. Thank you again.
Welcome, Sandra. Thanks
All
so much for having
right.
me. God bless you.
You have a wonderful week.